I play the game with no timeouts. You ride my wave, you're getting wiped out. Big mistakes get wiped out. I spot you like a lighthouse. Watch your moves like a night owl. On a full moon, wolves gon' howl. Can't bounce back, no rebounds. I show up like me how. Yo. Welcome back to another episode of The Tip Off. I am your host, Iceman the Eskimo. Y'all know what I came here today to do. We still got a ways before the season start. And somebody's got to make the roster. And a lot of guys has got to come off the roster. What up, Upig? I see you in chat. Y'all see who I got on my panel today with me. My boy, Net Press, Dylan. What's good, Dylan?
What's going on, man? Appreciate you for having me on. I'm pretty sure this is the first time I've been on this as well, so appreciate it a ton, man. If you guys are new around here, make sure to subscribe to them.
Yeah, you already know. I think it's first, second. It might be the second, maybe the first, second.
I may have.
I don't know, but we here.
Yeah, it's definitely a new experience. So happy to be on, man.
All right, yeah, we definitely gonna talk about this roster mess that we have right now. Frankenstein is out for the Nets, and we trying to put pieces together. You know what I mean? What pieces? What do we do with these pieces? The pictures behind you. I got some scenarios. I know you probably got some scenarios. I really don't know if we're gonna keep Neesmith because he's on a $5 million contract. He is, you know what I'm saying? The guy that they just traded for took on for salary. So I don't know if we keep him.
Oh, Haywood Highsmith, yeah.
Yeah, so with that being said, there are only 2 roster spots open and one two-way contract open. If I'm correct, that's the only thing that's open right now. And we got, what's that, 10 guys?
Not I was including these. So as of right now, I'm pretty sure the Nets actually have 19 players on their roster. So they actually have no available roster spots. Let me double check just to make sure. But if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure we got 19 or 20 guys on the roster now. So
so you mean guys that are paid, or at least have contracts?
Yeah, guys who are on standard deals so far with the Nets. I'm gonna leave Zaire and Day'Ron Sharpe off because they are unofficial, and of course Cam Thomas has not signed, so I'm not gonna add him either. So guys who have standard NBA contracts, you got Michael Porter Jr., Nick Claxton, Terrence Mann, Haywood Highsmith, Noah Clowney, Dariq Whitehead, Keon Johnson, Jalen Wilson, Tyrese Martin, Drew Timme. That's already 10, plus the 5 rookies is 15. Then, of course, you have Zaire and Sharpe who are on unofficial deals, but if those do become official, that would be 17 players on the roster. Plus, you would have Cam Thomas if you bring him back. That's 18. And if I'm not mistaken, I feel like I'm missing a player here.
Is it Jalen Wilson?
No, Wilson we got. I know Fansco hasn't updated all their rosters yet, but so as of right now, we at least have a minimum of 18 players in the roster, which means you actually have to free up 3 spots. So, yeah, it's a tough position to be in. They have to figure this out sooner rather than later. I mean, training camp starts in a month, so we're still in a position where we have no clue who's going to be on this opening day roster as of right now.
Right, exactly. We said you got to give my boy Ricky Council a 2-way contract. Boy, Ricky. All right, Dylan. You know what I'm saying? This.
Oh, that's right, Ricky. I forgot Ricky. That's 19. Yeah, that's who I forgot.
Yeah,
I knew there was one.
I got him in the photo. Yeah, Ricky.
There's so many damn players in the team now, dude, that I don't even know who the hell's on it. It's ridiculous. They got so many dudes on this, man.
Right. That's why I did this today, just to see what fans, just to get a perspective of what fans think, who should stay on the roster and who should go. Because right now, as far as what you read off, I don't even know myself. Because they gave Fambo a 10-day contract. They gave Ricky Council a contract. Grant Nelson got an invite to training camp. Then you still got Tucson and what's his name? Tyson Etienne on a 2-way, right? Like, bro, I don't know. And you still got Timmy. You just drafted Wolf. You know what I mean? Yep. You got
a lot of bits and pieces that they got to figure out right now. It's crazy, man. I mean, I think when I was first originally evaluating the offseason, I was looking at it as Keon, Tyrese, and Jalen Wilson to be cut because of the team options that they had.
Right.
Just based on the fact that you had to worry about roster spots after drafting 5 rookies. And of course, they accepted all of those team options. So that was 4 roster spots that they filled just from the team option guys that they brought back. So you'd have to think that those 4, probably 2 or 3 of them are the first guys to get cut, just because it's the easiest replacements on the roster. But you also have to look at it as there's probably another trade to be made, whether that is Claxton or Cam Thomas, just because these are guys that are, taking up some decent cap space, but are also assets that could get you back some form of value in return. So who knows? I mean, if it was my decision, the easiest one would be to try and move off of Terrence Mann, but the problem is he probably doesn't have much value as of right now. You just got him free along with a first-round pick. So to move off of him today, you'd probably have to give up a first-round pick as well. So probably letting him play for this season, seeing if he could up his value at all and be moved at the deadline is probably what his role is on this team. But it's going to be very tough. Like, realistically, if it was my decision today, I know some people won't agree on it, I would sign and trade Cam Thomas just because I don't think he meshes well with the rookie class that we brought in. And ideally, you are trying to build an entire new identity to this organization. So trying to build around some of those youth guys that you can implement that mindset and culture is probably the best route to take. And then I'd also give Fanbo that last two-way spot. That is something that needs to be filled out here shortly as well. So, cutting guys like Jalen Wilson, Tyrese Martin, those would be my 2 definite cuts. And then maybe one of either Drew Timme or Keon, just depending on what you want to do. But yeah, it's going to be tough to try and figure out a way to get down to that 15-man spot. I don't think Zaire is going to be back, unfortunately, because that contract is still unofficial. He was one of the last year that I was so excited to have in, because I've been watching Zaire since his days at Sierra Canyon in high school. He definitely proved himself to be a very solid piece to any team. So to see him go would suck, but I definitely think that he's one of those guys that could be dealt in a trade just to create a roster spot, because he does have some value.
Right. Interesting, because after Summer League, some Nets fans do not think Tucson deserves a 2-way contract anymore. They don't think he deserves it either. Yeah. So fans want him off the 2-way. And like Wu said, Ricky Council, Fanbo, I want to see Fanbo at least on a 2-way, because
I agree.
He has some type of skill to offer. He's very skilled. You know what I mean?
100%.
He's very skilled, 6'11". He probably needs to get stronger. Go ahead.
I'm intrigued by Fanbo for sure, because he has something to his game that not a lot of people have, which is, the ability to be a stretch big man in this league. Over in China, if you guys have done any research on him, I believe he was averaging a near 50-40 shooting split, which if you were heavily invested in this year's NBA draft, one of the players that I really wanted that was available and Brooklyn decided to pass on 3 separate times, which pissed me the hell off, was Rasheer Fleming, the junior power forward out of St. Joe's. He reminds me a lot of him. Maybe not as athletic, but a guy who can block shots, who can shoot efficiently from all levels of the floor, and also brings that versatility as a defender where he could guard the 3 through 5. I definitely like what Fanbo has overall. So I'm definitely hoping to see him on this roster. I think he's a guy that could actually earn himself a standard deal at some point in the future, especially if he's developed properly. But if there's one guy that I definitely want to see in Brooklyn next year, whether that's on a standard or a 2-way, it would be Fanbo. I just think his upside is very interesting for the way that he's skill set is. So I would love to see him here.
I agree, because that's been the guy I've been talking about when I first heard they were interested in him. I had to go look him up. I seen that he was undrafted. He had a couple run with a team. He didn't make it quite. He went back over to China. He played with G League Ignite. That's what he played with, G League Ignite. Then I think he got on somebody's roster. He didn't do too well. Went back over to China, got his game together. Like you said, 50-40, that was amazing shooting. You know what I'm saying? They say how well he worked on his game. And when I watch him, he's athletic, for not to say anything bad about Chinese guys, but he is athletic. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He has some bounce. He put back. He can dunk. You know what I'm saying? He can run the floor. He's quick. Lefty. He got a little craftiness with the handles. And I'm like, okay, this is something we do not have on this team, not even in the G League. You know what I mean? We don't
He
have this.
reminds me a lot
Getting
of a
down was
smaller.
like,
I was gonna say he reminds me a lot of a
go ahead.
smaller Kristaps Porzingis.
Ah,
It's a very interesting build that he has. I mean, I'm looking at his stats right now this past season. He played 27 and a half minutes per night, roughly. He shot 52.6% from the field, 40.5% from three. He shot 79.8% from the free throw line. That's really good for a big man. And overall, he averaged
yep.
14.7 points, 4.7 total rebounds, 2 assists, and a block and a half a night. So, you know, as a stretch four in this league, I definitely could see some value in him. The rebounding and physicality definitely needs a little bit of work, but the overall efficiencies and offensive game that he has for his size and position is definitely something I'm interested in.
Yeah, definitely. I was excited. I was waiting for the signing. They had a little delay with the team he played on before the Nets could actually give him or offer him any type of anything, contract or anything. They had to wait for something from overseas to say that he was all right to play, and he was injured at the time too. So they was waiting on that. I waited like almost a month and a half, 2 months for that. You know what I'm saying? To talk about him, fans was late. You know what I'm saying, about hearing about Fanboy, and I kept posting about him, just waiting till they actually signed him. But they gave him a 10. What was it? Well, not a 10-day.
An Exhibit 10.
Exhibit 10. Yeah, they gave him an Exhibit 10.
So it's a non-standard deal. It's not a two-way deal. It's more of a training camp invite, meaning, you know, he'll be on the team for training camp and through preseason, but his roster spot is not guaranteed for when the season begins. So he'll have to earn his way into that two-way spot. Ideally, I mean, the best scenario for the Nets, if they're trying to be smart with these roster spots, to me, you cut Tucson, you give Fanbo the two-way spot, and then you also cut Ricky Council and bring him in on the two-way deal. So you would replace Tucson and that available two-way spot with Fanbo and Ricky Council. You know, that'll already clear up a roster spot. Then you could kind of cut, you know, Tyrese Martin and Jalen Wilson. That'll, you know, free up 3 total roster spots. And you'll probably be down to, you know, 16, 17 players in the roster, to where if you say you make a trade where you move Zaire and, you know, just say, for example, it is Cam Thomas. You get a player back in return, and that'll drop it down to that, 15-man roster spot that you need. So there's a lot of ways to work around it. It really depends on how they're going to go about it. You know, there's a lot of simplistic ways to do it, but I think we've all learned as Nets fans, it is probably the scenario that you don't think of that will happen when your GM is Sean Marks. So it really just depends on the way that they're going to look at it.
Right. So let's do this. Tucson Iwoma out the G League, got some time last year. Didn't look too bad on a roster. But then in Summer League, when he had the opportunity to have the ball in his hands, Dylan, he did not look like a hooper. He didn't look like the same Tucson when he had freedom. You know what I mean? Is that the same reason why you say, you know what I'm saying? Let's move. We can move on from him and give like Fanboy on Ricky Council. Ricky Council, highly athletic. You know what I mean? He has definitely some a little bit of skill to his dribbling. He has a little bit of stuff to his game. So does Fanboy. And Tucson is not quite the same. He's not quite same. I don't even think as far as skills, I don't think he's on any of their levels as far as skills. What do you think?
I agree. I mean, Tucson's not a guy that I looked at when we first got him, or even today now that I've seen him play for a year. I don't see him as a true NBA player, and that's not a knock on him. It's just, there's guys who are meant for this league. There's guys who are meant to kind of bounce around and try and find their opportunities in the G League and on two-way spots. I just don't see an NBA player out of him. So realistically, he's definitely the easiest guy for me to move away from, especially if it does mean, keeping guys like Ricky Council and Fanbo on two-way deals, or even if you have to cut a guy like Drew Timme or Keon and bring them back on a two-way deal. There's numerous routes as to how to create some roster spots. So they just got to be smart with it. They got to do it to, build out the best players who have earned it most, but also, trying to cut down to that 15-man roster spot to start the season.
Speaking, before I go to Drew Timme, Grant Nelson, like I told somebody that I scout with, I felt like in college, the Nets, Grant Nelson will be a Nets guy, even though he can't shoot threes. But something tells me they just like a Grant Nelson player, and I don't see him making this roster. Not especially if Fambo get a two-way, which I think he should. Grant Nelson is nowhere as skilled as Fambo, but he is a hustle player. He plays hard. You know what I mean? He does rebound. He is like 6'11". But I
Mhm.
don't, if he can't space the floor, I don't see him as a player that we need on this team. Like, what do you think about Grant?
Well, I mean, the one thing with him is he is a 5-year college guy. So he played 5 seasons
Yep.
in college. He played 3 years at North Dakota State. He played 2 years at Bama. His production really went down at Bama overall in his 5 years. He's a 28.7% three-point shooter. Not great whatsoever, below league average, but also not horrible to where you can't fix it. If you guys remember Noah Clowney coming out of Bama, he was shooting a sub 27% from three. He was incredibly
Yep.
inefficient at Bama his freshman season, but
Yeah.
there's definitely a little bit of room for growth with Grant Nelson. I wouldn't mind seeing him on a two-way spot. Do I think he deserves it yet? No. I definitely think they should just outright sign him to the Long Island team and let him work his way up from there. But there's definitely some
Yes.
upside with Nelson. It's not going to be, a star or a consistent rotational piece. But if it's a guy on the back end of your bench where if an injury happens, you can bring him in, in 2 years from now, maybe. Um, but I definitely wouldn't give Nelson that two-way spot. I don't think he earned it in summer league, and I don't think he has more upside than a guy like Vanvo.
Yeah, I agree. That's exactly what I seen him as. Long Island Nets guy, Grant Nelson, working his way up. John just pulled up. You know what I'm saying? Everything Brooklyn Nets. John, what's up, bro?
Hey, it's good to be here. Yeah, interesting topic. Like we're trying to figure out who's going to be on this roster around training camp, who's going to be on it around the deadline, who's going to be on it at the end of the season. Like we truly don't know who's going to be on this roster when it's all said and done. I think everybody, like you and I talked about on a previous stream, everybody's fighting for a role in this team. Nothing is guaranteed or set in stone. That even goes for guys like MPJ, Claxton, and of course Cam Thomas if he comes back or not. Like everybody's got to fight for something and show that they can hold down a role. The interesting thing is, as we approach media day, training camp, you and I talked about last time how they could be 6 guys, they could potentially get cut, sent to the G League, waived, etc., or even traded at a certain point. And you look at guys who could be on the bubble. I think Tucson, Owuman, or as we say, Tucson from Walmart, he's definitely on the bubble. I thought his summer league was really abysmal, just too ISO oriented, not enough team style play. He's definitely on the bubble. Ricky Council, an interesting name. He could be sent to the G League, or at the same time, given a roster crunch, he could let go too. But I think they should keep him on the G League because him and Fambo are kind of like some more athletic guys. They're two guys you potentially could send to the G League, or you could sign Fambo to a two-way. And I think 3 other guys who could be on the bubble: Tyrese Martin, Jalen
Hold
Wilson, and
on.
Derek
Stop right there.
Whitehead.
Stay right there. Stay right there.
Mhm.
Stay right there. Yeah, me and Dylan said Fambo and Ricky two way.
Mhm.
Tucson off the two way. Now we talking about Grant. What do you think about Grant Nelson before we move on to the other guys?
Yeah,
Grant Nelson.
yeah, I agree with what Dylan said. I don't think we've seen enough from Grant to really warrant having a two-way contract on his team. He just didn't show enough, and I think for the Nets, they're really looking at every little detail, who's making an impact, and he really didn't show much of an impact. So I don't think he would probably get that, but anything can be possible at this point. But yeah, just like you said, Ice, there's definitely some guys that could be on the bubble, and I think that last two-way spot, if there is going to be a last two-way spot, it's definitely going to be interesting. I think a lot of guys are going to be fighting for that. And I would like to even say that Derek Whitehead, he's on the bubble as well, just because we have so many guards on this team, and he needs to be super healthy coming to training camp so he can hold down a role. I just think drafting so many playmakers like we did really even puts more pressure on Whitehead as well to try to show he can hold a spot on this team. So yeah, you could say Whitehead, Tucson, Grant. So those guys are definitely each on bubble as well. So I think everybody has to come to training camp ready to fight for something because if you aren't, high chance you probably aren't going to be on this team when it's all said and done. But at the same time, that's a good way to go about it because we want to find out who could be the next Brooklyn Net on this team. And I do hope this Cam Thomas situation gets situated before we turn the calendar September because it's as soon as it gets to September, it could get really drama oriented fast if Cam Thomas is unsigned as we get closer to media day.
All right, let's move on to the man, Drew Timmy. Drew Timmy, interesting player, undersized, big, not really a 4, not really a 5. What do you do with this guy? You know what I'm saying? That's the question. Drew Timmy showed out summer league. He showed out in the G League, NBA. When he got a chance, he had one, maybe two decent games, one bad game, something like that. Don't remember, but he was starting to get a little bit of buzz. You know what I'm saying? From the Nets fans. Don't know what to do with him. Is he a guy that you keep on the roster? We seen Kendrick Perkins talk about get Drew Timmy on somebody's playoff team. He could help somebody. You know what I'm saying? So what do you think we do with Drew Timmy? Nets press Dylan. What do you think we do with Timmy?
I mean, I think out of all of the guys who came back on team options, that he's by far the one that's deserved it the most. He's also the one that's kind of needed the most. You know, with the rookies that the Nets drafted, you got really three guards that can handle the point guard position. Keon is a very undersized guy who doesn't really primarily play the one. He's more of a two. So realistically, with the guard group that you have, if Cam Thomas is to come back, you'd be seeing, you know, Cam Thomas, Yegor, Traore, Ben Saraf, and then probably one of Drake Powell or Dariq Whitehead playing that two guard off the bench. So there's way too many guards on this team for me to say that Keon is a guy that's definitely going to be here. Has he earned his position in Brooklyn? Probably. But to me, I think Drew Timmy is just a bit more vital to what you need as a big man, whether that be, you know, Danny Wolf being in the G League for a majority of the season and needing a guy that can back up Claxton and Sharp for if one of them get hurt. I definitely think Drew Timmy fits that role better than what Keon fits with the guard room that we have. So I definitely think if you're to pick between one of the 4 team option guys they brought back, that Timmy's the one that deserves to be on the roster the most.
All right, John, what you think about Drew Timmy?
Yeah, it could go either way with Drew Timmy. I mean, obviously he had the best summer league just because he's a further along a little bit more than a lot of these other guys. But at the same time, like, is he going to be a core player in the future? Probably not. But given the fact that we are trying to find some type of offensive spark on this team, that's probably what could keep Drew Timmy around. And it's interesting, Dylan brought Keon Johnson. Listen, I think Keon showed a lot of fight last year. I mean, literally, he was trying to stay in the league. I think people forget. I said, like, listen, Keon Johnson was hanging on the tip of a rope trying to stay in the league, and he somehow found a raft with the Nets. He grew a bit in his role. The only problem with Keon Johnson is he's not an efficient scorer, and given the height factor that he has with his agility, he doesn't use the agility as much as he should. So if you keep Drew Timmy around, there's a high chance Keon Johnson as well could find himself on the bubble. And we do have a lot of guards on this team, so we do have to weed out some guys from that part of the roster. Like, not all these guys, as far as the guards go, are going to be on this team when it's all said and done. So, yeah, I think if you keep a Drew Timmy around, a guy like Keon or Whitehead could definitely be on the bubble as well. But I think what Drew Timmy just gives you, he gives you some quality play, not great play, because if he takes a lot of shots, it's probably not going to help you on that side of the ball. But he has shown you he can make buckets when you need to. And maybe him and Danny Wolf, they showed a little bit of some type of chemistry in summer league a little bit. Maybe you play the two of them coming off the bench, something like that. Having two bigs, I guess, something like that could be fun, I guess. But at the end of the day, it could go either way with Drew Timmy at this point for me. But I definitely could see why he'd be on the roster just because he gives you a little bit of offense. But they definitely have to weed out the guards because we have 6 or 7 guards on this roster right now. Way too much.
We're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about that. I ain't gonna talk about that. I'm gonna say I thought Drew Timmy, just like Dylan mentioned earlier, but I want to get to the guys individually. I think Drew Timmy is one of the guys that we probably don't bring back just because you mentioned Danny Wolf, right? And Danny Wolf may not be ready for the NBA, but I for some reason I don't see the Nets keeping 4 guys that could potentially play, you know what I'm saying, center. I don't see them doing that. That's not a thing they usually do. You know what I'm saying? They all make sometimes they don't even have one guy. They only got, you know what I'm saying, Clax and Sharp, and that's it. So I would think, my thinking, even though Timmy can hoop, my thinking is they might want to move off Timmy, put Wolf in the G for time being, unless one of them get hurt, and then they might call him up or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Even though he's ready. That's my thought. But a lot of people think, what's good, JP? A lot of people think that, Drew Timmy is a player that the Nets should bring back, you know what I'm saying? Because he has some type of game. But I want to really get to Keon Dylan mentioned Keon. Keon is another player I thought might be out just because we got, like John just said, all these guards. Like, and I think once you got damn, I'm missing his name right now. Third pick of the draft,
Drake Powell.
Drake Powell, because you got Drake, who is a defender, 6'6", long, lanky, tall, got offensive side of the ball, shot the air out the ball at North Carolina. That puts pressure on him making the team as like you said, he's not really a 1, he's a 2. And Drake could play the 3, but he's more of a 2, I guess. You know what I'm saying? So I would think that would put the X on him, send him out. You know what I'm saying? We really don't need you. And along with all the guards, Trayor and Saraf, even though Saraf is going to be the G. And then you got Terrence Mann is sitting back there too. Like, that's a lot of folks. You know what I mean? And even though Terrence Mann is a veteran, he's probably still better than Keon for sure. More athletic, bigger. You know what I'm saying? So I think Keon would be out. You know what I mean? What y'all thought? What y'all think? Go ahead, Dylan. I know you already said your piece about it. What you think though? Is that one of the reasons why?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the guard room needs to be the focal point this year for Brooklyn, especially with the amount of guys that they drafted. So it's a little tough to really say that, you know, you need a guy like Keon. You know, it's a tough position to be in. You got to focus on the youth and the development. Keon's a guy that, you know, he had some flashes. It's just, this isn't a guy who's going to be a long-term bench piece on any NBA team. You know, he kind of is what he is, and that's a back-end bench guy, you know, when somebody gets hurt. Do I see him being a guy in this league that should be playing, you know, full-time rotational bench minutes? No. So I think that kind of puts you in a position where you need to start focusing on the youth and the development that you just drafted at the guard position and really take that seriously. So I don't see Keon being on this team at all.
All right, what you got about Keon, John? Just stick to Keon. We're gonna move around a little bit. Go ahead.
Yeah, similar thoughts about Keon. He's a third stringer on a really good team. His efficient scoring is what his biggest problem is. I know we saw him kind of be more efficient towards the end of the season, but 3/4 of the way, the guy took like 20, 30 shots and made like 6 or 7. Like, that's just not good to me. And it felt like he was trying to demand having a role in this team by taking all those shots. I understand being desperate, wanting to have a role in this team, but we need guys that know how to be team oriented and know how to pass the ball and find their spots. I feel like for Keon, he was trying to do way too much 3/4 of the way. Towards the end, got a little better, but just not enough. And at the same time, Dariq Whitehead as well. He's fighting for the same type of opportunity that Keon Johnson is. And if Keon is still on this team, Whitehead's going to be hard for him to crack any minute. So I feel like for Keon, he probably is a movable piece in the future for the Nets. I don't see long-term possibility with him. He can be a third stringer on any contending team right now just for the Nets. I don't see him as a starter ever, and I really don't see him as a backup either. So I feel like his future in the Brooklyn Nets is limited in a sense, but it'll be interesting to see if he even makes the roster towards media day and training camp.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. My God, everybody knows my guy Tyrese Martin. You know what I mean? Yeah. I would love Tyrese back. I would love my guy back. I don't know if he's coming back though, because all these players we got, now that we got Highsmith, I think it's difficult for him to come back. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, we got Terrence Mann, Michael Porter Jr., Drake Powell. You know what I mean? Dariq's still in the G. He might try to make his way up. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if there's room for my guy, the 3-point shooter, Tyrese Martin, who showed he could do a little bit more than 3-point shooting. But I think the roster is so tight that I don't think he might make it. That's my guy. But let me know what you think about Tyrese Martin, Dylan.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been big on him. I definitely think that he, you know, was a nice little spark for a team that really didn't have an identity, nor was even in a remote position to contend.
Yep.
But I just don't see him being a long-term piece. Again, with kind of the guard-heavy room that we have in terms of the draft class that we just took, it doesn't really seem useful for us and as well as him to be on this roster long-term. He's definitely proven that he can be a decent bench piece on any team, but do I see him as a guy who's getting a consistent 10 to 15 minutes a night off the bench on any team? No. So it's a bit difficult for the situation that he's in. But again, it comes down to the availability on the roster spots, and we just don't have it. So to me, I definitely don't see him coming back either.
Right, right. John, what you got on my guy, Tyrese Martin?
I
You know
I
what I'm
know
saying?
that's your guy. And listen, he came in, smoking last year with that big 30-point game against the Suns. That was a huge breakout moment. But then after that, he kind of became very steady Eddie. I think he was averaging around 6 8 points, something like that. I think he could be a decent piece to this team's bench eventually. But the problem with Martin is I think he's like 26 or 27 years old, Ice. Like, he's kind of up there
Yeah,
around that, that prime age. And I think for the Nets right now, he is making a low salary, and I just don't know if that's going to be a long-term core part of our future. I think right now he gives you some decent minutes because he is one of your, I guess you could say even a veteran type guard on this team, but he's not really what you'd say as a role guy at this moment because he doesn't have a set financial foundation on this team. So for Martin, he's fighting for a lot as well, but I agree with Dylan. I just don't see him as a long-term piece either. But given the fact we have a lot of young guys, I can see why Jordy trusted him a lot last year in the main minutes that he has because you do need certain vets on this team. So I could see us, if we move off of Haywood and some other vets on this team, like a Terrence Mann eventually, maybe Martin could find a way to stay on this team. But at the same time, his contract, I don't think is guaranteed. So it'll be interesting to see if he even has a spot come roster day as well. I know it's your guy, Ice, but there's a lot of other guys fighting for the same opportunities he's fighting for, especially at that guard position.
yeah. 26. I don't think his contract is guaranteed. I think most of the guys that is in his category, Jalen Wilson, maybe contracts are only guaranteed by January if they stay on the roster, something like that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But that's my guy. But this the interesting guy, the guy they drafted, Jay Wills, Summer League MVP, who shot I don't even know what he shot the laces off the ball in Summer League. You know what I mean? I think Jalen didn't show as much as didn't shoot well. I think it was kind of like a point guard situation sometimes with him. He's not a creator. I don't think he's a big creator for himself. He's not really a creator for other. He is a hustle guy, rebound type guy, even though he can't jump that high, and he is a spot up 3-point shooter. So Jalen, he's definitely in a tough situation where he could be in or out of the league. What do you think about Jalen Wilson, Dylan?
Yeah, I really liked what I saw from him his rookie year, but the second year I just was not a fan of the production with the minutes that he was given. Um, a lot of guys look great in summer league. It's not something that I really prioritize very often. I know that when he had his little MVP summer league performance, a lot of people were
Yeah,
excited for him. I was one of them as well, but he really didn't showcase much value, especially as a mid to late second round pick. It's definitely something that is overall, pretty replaceable in this league. And
yeah,
especially with his contract being non-guaranteed, I definitely don't see a reason as to why he's here long term. Again, when it comes to the amount of roster spots that you need to fill out, or I should say decrease to be able to fill out that full 15-man roster, it's just not a
right,
player that I see here. So it's unfortunate, but he'll definitely find somewhere to go, long term. He's definitely a guy that could be an NBA bench piece. He brings an intensity on the defensive end and can be a spark plug at times with his floor spacing ability, but he definitely needs to improve overall as a player and become a bit more efficient to really find that, you know, spot in this league where he can be here long term.
right. John, what you got on that?
Yeah, Wilson, like Dylan said, came in, with giving the team a bit of a spark first season. Second season after the Summer League thing, you thought he was set to take that leap, but Jalen Wilson really dropped the ball last year, especially when Cam Thomas went down. People would kind of look at him as be potentially one of those breakout pieces, and he never really took the bull by the horns, and he just had a lot of abysmal performances. Like, his biggest problem is he doesn't, like you said, self-create. His playmaking, which is one of his biggest weaknesses, didn't really work on that either. So it's like if nobody's setting him up in the corner and he's not like rebounding, near the rim as he does, he's not really being a huge contributor. I think, like Dylan said, he could be a bench piece for another team. But as far as what we're trying to look for, I don't know if he's really a core piece or a back end bench piece to what we're trying to build right now. So I could see the Nets potentially maybe flip Jalen Wilson for a second round pick to like another team that might want him. But yeah, I just feel like last year it could have been his chance to really break out, and we only get to see that. It was just a lot of performances from Jalen Wilson. So I could see the Nets potentially move off of him in the future, especially if he doesn't come into training camp ready to work on every aspect of his game. So I feel like he is on the bubble a lot just because he has things that he can work on potentially be a good bench piece. It's just time's a ticking for him to establish that.
All right, that's facts. That's facts. Jalen Wilson, a guy like Dylan said, after a while it was just like, boy, you need some help. You know what I mean? Like you're shooting, if shooting is what you offer and you're not knocking that down and you're doing rebounds, you play a little bit defense, but they really need your floor space and got to get that together. You know what I'm saying? Especially when you got Tyrese Martin, you come out the G who shot a decent. You know what I'm saying? Last year, that didn't look too good. So let me get this right so far. Tucson out of here. We don't want Tucson on on
Go
the
back to
two-way.
Walmart.
All right. Ricky Fambo two-way. Oh, Tyson Etienne. He is a G League two-way guy. But what y'all think about Tyson before I move on? Dylan, you got anything on Tyson?
I don't see him as an NBA guy. I don't.
Okay.
I'm not a fan of his game, really. Again, another guy that's just very, very replaceable. And to me, I mean, listen, if he's on the two-way spot, that's fine. But do I see him being a guy that deserves, an NBA contract here in the near future? Definitely not.
Right. So he's like one of what I call them guys is like guys who are just maybe too good for the G League, but can't quite make it in the NBA type guy. Like he's like in between NBA, you know what I'm saying, the G League and the NBA. Is that what you as you see him? Like he's right there, but he can't quite make any rosters. You know what I mean?
I honestly don't know what exactly his role is in the NBA. Like I really don't see anything out of the ordinary with his game.
Right.
So it's a bit tough to say if I think he's an NBA guy or not. Personally, if it was just my first thought come to mind, I would probably say no.
You're right.
But it would definitely just take a little bit of time to actually see him. Like, say he does stick here on that two-way deal, we'll see what he's got in the G League. But as of right now, if it was my decision, probably not.
All right, that's what's up, John. What you got anything on Tyson Etienne, the 3-point shooter out the G?
Yeah, I think you were right on the money, Ice. Like he's too good for the G League, but not great enough to really break through on anybody's roster right now. And I saw him a bit in summer league, Brick City. He was taking a lot of threes, clanking a lot of threes. I just don't know if his game is as confident as it should be as far as efficiency goes. I think the one thing we have to keep as a theme with all these guys we're evaluating is, are they efficient scorers? And I think we can all kind of agree a lot of these guys, that's not really their wheelhouse, being efficient. A lot of them have certain little roles they can do, but as far as being overall efficient on the offensive glass, a lot of these guys have huge weaknesses in those areas. And Etienne especially, I just don't think he has any type of scoring efficiency in his body right now. So I definitely see him as a huge expendable piece for the Nets whenever they feel like they want to move off him at this point.
Yeah, definitely G League. What he does, he doesn't even really run point guard that much in the G. He's mostly spot up corner or bring the ball down and shoot the three. That's basically his job in the G. He's tough, but he's like 6'2". You know what I mean? So that's why I say he probably too good for the G. And I'm like, Dylan, I really can't see him on a roster, especially now that you got Jaeger and Trayor. You know what I mean? Which I think is probably better than him at this time. You know what I mean? But maybe somebody will need a 3-point shooter later, and maybe he can get a job doing that. All right. So now, since we went around the board, Timmy is a maybe. My guy Tyrese, Keon, Jalen probably out. Tucson out. Those four guys are out. Timmy is a maybe. Grant Nelson definitely a Long Island guy. Haywood Highsmith, I know me and Dylan talked about him earlier, but what do we do with this guy? Does he stay for the $5 million? Does he stay on the roster as a veteran guy who plays defense, who can teach some of the young guys or even the guys on the roster something about defense? You know what I mean? And then you think about if Zaire comes back, another defensive guy, and Terrence Mann, another decent defensive guy. And like we know, Jordy likes defensive guys. You know what I'm saying? They all can do different things differently. So with him and having a younger roster, Do you see them keeping him as a veteran for this year, or do you see them just moving off him before we even start? What you got, Dylan?
Who are we talking about again? Sorry, I didn't hear your name.
High Smith,
Haywood.
Haywood, High Smith.
Haywood, I see him being on the roster. Like realistically, it's an expiring contract. He's going to hold some value around the NBA, especially when the trade deadline comes around. You know, he could be a guy that you get 2-3 second round picks for. So I definitely see him being on the roster for at least half the season. I don't think he's going anywhere.
Okay, what you got, John?
Yeah, we talked about Haywood a bit, Ice. I agree. I think for right now, he's going to be out for 8 to 10 weeks. He might not come back till like early November, early December at the latest. But I think he definitely brings the defensive grit that Jordy wants a lot of these guys to embody on this team. And he could, serve as maybe like an assistant coach right now as he rehabs, currently helping these young guys get better on the defensive end. Definitely valuable to have his type of defensive knowledge. But at the same time, he's unrestricted free agent, and there are going to be contending teams looking at what he gives you defensively. And if he's healthy, and let's say he plays mid-November, early December, and then January, and at the deadline, if there's a team offering 2 to 3, I would say 2 is the max, 2 second-round draft picks for Haywood, you got to take it. At the end of the day, you got to be able to do good business at the deadline. And Sean Mark's problem is you always want so much for certain players. Haywood, if you could get 2 to 3 second-round picks, that's more than what you could ask for a guy that hurt his meniscus, yet he's still playing decent defense if and when he comes back. That, to me, is good value if you can extract that. But, yeah, the biggest thing that is keeping him from being any long-term part of the Nets' future is he's an unrestricted free agent. So if there are multiple playoff teams knocking on the door come trade deadline and they're offering 2 to 3 second-round picks, take it and run with it. At the end of the day, we're trying to get these young guys as much minutes as possible. And having vets is all fine and dandy, but we don't want super crazy vets on this team potentially ruining our lottery odds. For the Nets next year, they need a top 5 franchise guy. If we get the 7th or 8th pick somehow because this organization let the vets play more than the young guys, it's just malpractice, and this organization should not even step foot in Brooklyn office past 2026 if they let that happen. So, yeah, I look for Haywood potentially being flipped at the deadline.
All right, you know what I'm saying? I don't really got too much more, but I want to talk to y'all right now since we on roster. Dariq Whitehead wanted to stay in the G last year to get his game together. There's nothing wrong with that. But he has, maybe this is his last year to prove that he can do something, that he has got over his injury, got his athleticism back. He can stay on the floor. He can stay healthy. He's shown that his confidence is back with the 3-point shooting that he showed in the G, that he showed in the NBA when he had time. He had maybe 2 games like that where he shot pretty well from 3. But he says, I want to go back to the G because he has not got his athleticism back, which a friend of mine had a surgery like that. He had the same problem. It took a while. Athleticism usually comes back. I know it takes a while. Everybody's body is different. But what does Dariq have to do this year, Dylan? What is it that Dariq got to do?
A little bit of everything. I mean, he's this is a guy who was projected to be a lottery pick prior to his draft class. You know, he dealt with that injury at Duke, which kind of pushed him back as a potential liability in terms of his health. Fell to the Nets and really hasn't stayed healthy or shown any form of NBA caliber readiness since being with the Nets. So it's definitely going to be a difficult road for him. It's just, the main thing that he needs to provide is availability and some form of improvement on the floor. Whether that be his floor spacing, his shot creation, his defense, his rebounding, whatever it may be, he's got to show some form of improvements this season to really provide the opportunity for him to be on this organization long term. So it's gonna all come down to the amount of effort that he puts in this season.
All right, John, what you? I mean, we talked about Dariq, but what you got about Dariq today? What you got?
Yeah, listen, at the end of the day, health. Dariq Whitehead has to be healthy this whole season, pretty much. Even if he makes it to training camp, he's still fighting for something. So he has to be healthy the whole step of the way. And it's crazy the fact that this guy was potentially touted as a top lottery prospect, and then he got injured, obviously, which dropped his stock. And Sean Marks likes to take, big risks on injured guys. And unfortunately, we just haven't seen Dariq play all whatsoever. And last year, He played a little bit. He shot a lot of threes. That's all fine and dandy. That goes with what Jordy wants these guys to do, take a lot of threes. But his interior athletic game, that completely has left him. I mean, I think he had 1 or 2 interior plays last year, and he does not look comfortable. He's having trouble moving up and down the court, and it's unfortunate. But leg injuries and surgeries, they can really affect a player's athletic ability and speed. And for Dariq Whitehead, he has lost both those things at this moment. And if he can find them this upcoming season, that's great. I'll be very happy for him. But at the same time, he's on the bubble. I mean, Ice, this draft class the Nets did couldn't have gone any worse for Dariq Whitehead because you drafted all these playmakers and point guards. And for Whitehead, he's now like what? The 6th, 7th man right now on this team just trying to break through, and he hasn't played a lot of games. Like, he is on the bubble. Like, I think the Nets are looking at, like, if Dariq Whitehead can't hold down a role by next year's trade deadline, he's probably out the door for a second-round pick or at worst waived. I mean, I don't think the organization is scared to waive this guy if he can't be healthy finally and show he can hold down a role. So for Dariq Whitehead, he's got to go all out, work on every aspect of his game, and try to hold down a bench role at this point. The unfortunate thing was with Drake Powell's arrival, especially, like JP's saying, Dariq versus Drake right now, Drake Powell is a few steps ahead because he has defense, he has some type of athletic ability, and if this guy's offense could grow this first year, it's hard to see Whitehead be on this team at all. So, yeah, for Whitehead, he's got to go all out this year, or it could be over for him as far as the Brooklyn Nets goes.
Yeah, definitely. Now, somebody that's in the same drafted the same year as Dariq, Noah Clowney. You know what I mean? Up for a contract probably next year. They could probably extend it the end of this year, if I'm not mistaken, Dylan. Dariq, do you see him staying on this team, or do you see him moving on from Noah Clowney?
I think they're gonna keep with Clowney. I don't think he's going anywhere this year. You know, there's an upside to his game that not many of the guys on this roster currently have. So to me, I think that this is definitely a guy that you're going to see here for the foreseeable future. Do I think that he gets extended this year? Probably not. Sean Marks has kind of shown the lack of ability of extending guys long term for cheap rather than he's kind of gone the route of wait till the last second and then have to overpay to keep him, which is stupidity, but that's the guy that we have running our organization. So not much that you can do about that. You just kind of have to hope that he figures it all out. So for me, I think Clowney's definitely here. I don't see him going anywhere. His biggest concern is just staying available. You know, he's dealt with 3 ankle injuries last season, which, you know, stunted the growth of what you could potentially get out of him. So hopefully he can stay healthy and just showcase that ability to continue what he's doing, put on some size, continue spacing the floor, and hopefully find some form of low post defense that kind of makes him a reliable, you know, stretch 4, if not big man in this league.
Yeah, that's right, Dylan. That's right. I want to add to that. I want to see him put the ball on the ground more. You know what I'm saying, this season. John, what you got about Noah Clowney?
Yeah, Noah Clowney has been such an interesting topic that we've covered this summer, right? Because I think you and I, we've talked to many different people, and a lot of people expect him to be a potential breakout guy on this team just because the first year he showed you shot blocking, he showed you some rebounding. Second year was more three-point shooting, but the injuries really dampened when he was potentially making little strides, like getting to the free throw line a bit, showing a bit of a dribble game. Like, we got to see more lobs, too, from him. Like, he has to be able to use that athletic ability that he has to catch lobs. And for Clowney, it's about putting it all together this year and establishing, you know, why he should be a long-term fixture of this team. And if he adds more muscle to his build, it's definitely going to make him a lot stronger as an interior threat. And this is the unfortunate thing, like with Sean Marks, is we still have Claxton on this team. And unfortunately, Claxton's value is so bad right now that all these playmakers have to get his trade value up. But the good thing is let's say Clowney does well in the limited time that he plays the first half of the season, Claxton builds his value up, and let's say the Nets flip him in next year's deadline, then you can move pieces around on this team. You can move Dayron to the starting lineup. If Wolf does well in the G League and he plays well off the bench, you can move him to be the backup 5. You could let Clowney be the backup 4 to Michael Porter Jr. Like, for Clowney, we want this guy to have a set role in this team, but having Claxton is going to make it hard for guys like Wolf and Clowney to break through because we already have Dayron as the backup, and Zaire is going to be competing for backup 3 or 4 minutes. So if we do trade Claxton at a certain point, it's going to bode well for Clowney's future because he wants to be a main part of this future. But with the roster crunch we have right now, he's going to have to make do with every minute that he's given this year because I think we could all agree he has a skill set that could really do well in this league. It's just he has to show it and be healthy enough to do so.
All right, that's true. That's true. Dylan, you talked about the guy that's not currently signed, him and Dayron. Zaire. Do you think Zaire makes this roster this season? I know you said earlier you don't think he comes back, but knowing what we just talked about, a lot of these guys won't be here. Will he be one of the guys that can possibly sneak on this roster this season?
I mean, I think Zaire is 100% a guy that should be on this roster. The problem is just the overall, amount of players that are on this roster currently that's kind of going to put him in a position to where he likely doesn't come back. If it was my decision, I would find any way possible to bring him back. He's still young. He's on a cheap deal for the next 2 years. I definitely think that's something that is valuable. But at the end of the day, he's likely to be a salary filler in some form of deal, whether that's Claxton getting traded, Cam Thomas sign-in trade, Terrence Mann trade, whatever it may be. It definitely seems like he's going to be the salary piece to that deal. And also in any trade that we make moving forward, you're likely to see 2 players from the Nets going outward in return for 1 player to create that roster spot. So it's unfortunate for him. It's unfortunate for myself as a fan and like others who are big fans of Zaire in Brooklyn. But I definitely don't think he's coming back this upcoming season, unfortunately.
John, what you got on Zaire? You know what I mean? What you think?
Yeah, listen, Zaire's situation is so strange because we all thought he could get maybe a 2-year, $20 million contract. And the fact that he got a $12 million contract with a $6 million salary definitely makes you go, okay, are Zaire and Dayron a part of this year so they could build up their value more and get paid? Or are they trade pieces? I think, like Dylan said, these guys could be expendable trade pieces if, let's say, the Nets do trade for a big upgrade to be part of their future for 2026 along with who they draft in that lottery. Those 2 guys make up over $12 million. So like that could be, huge as a trade chip goes. But for Zaire especially, it feels like he's done well on this team. It feels like he's one of Jordy's first real success projects as far as a model of what he wants his team to be built upon. I mean, Zaire's defense was really good last year, and his three-point shot, which was a huge weakness of his, was the best on this team. And I feel like Jordy really developed him properly. And Zaire even said, I like when this team gets loud in my face and challenges me on a day-to-day basis. I felt like we really got to see Zaire the player as opposed to a guy just trying to fit in and show what he can do. I feel like we got a more relaxed, confident version of Zaire last year, and I look forward to seeing if he is on this team this year to keep growing in that role as far as a bench piece goes. But he's also showed he could start as well, so that type of versatility is very important for what we're trying to build this team's future upon. So it would be shocking to see Zaire get traded. But like Dylan said, given the low salary he has, it definitely could happen as well because Zaire, I think, did build his value up a little bit. And I think a lot of teams would be happy having a guy who's like, 6'9", who could play different types of defense for you, knock down threes. And he showed he could be a cutter and a lob threat. I mean, Zaire's game, if he does stay on this team and evolve, it could make him a really good trade commodity down the line if the Nets want to boost up for an upgrade. So I don't see Zaire getting traded at this moment. But given the fact that Zaire and Dayron's contracts haven't been settled yet, it's definitely something that could happen if they don't get re-signed before media day. But I would look for Zaire to still be on this team just because it seems like he's a good veteran bench piece for these young guys to follow.
Yeah, definitely. I thought he would be a guy to come back. I know they like defense. He's shown somewhat of the reason why he was a high draft pick when he got to our team with Jordy. Played better, shot better, rebounded. Seems like a guy that should be on the team, like Dylan says. But with this Frankenstein masterpiece the Nets are coming up with, who knows who's going to be here? I mean, like he said, Terrence Mann. I see defensive pieces. Terrence Mann, Zaire, Neesmith, Drake Powell. They are all like defensive guys, and I know he would like to keep them all, but he probably can't keep them all. You know what I'm saying? Most likely, like you said, during the trade deadline, at least 1 or 2 of these guys. Dylan, what do you think? Do you think Terrence Mann and Neesmith gets moved at the trade deadline, or do they end up keeping one of them? You know what I'm saying? One of them just because they tend to hold on to guys too long, or they like this guy so much, like a Neesmith, who you can probably give another small contract to. He probably won't demand nothing, you know what I'm saying, Lars. He probably won't give him more than $7 million or nothing like that. You know what I mean? Do you think they end up keeping somebody like that?
Terrence Mann, yeah, I think they end up keeping just because his value is not really what you would want it to be right now. He just got traded for the 22nd. He just got traded along with the 22nd overall pick for nothing. So I definitely think that speaks volumes on what his value is currently around the league. It's definitely not something that I expect to be dealt with this season. Say he raises his value by the trade deadline, then maybe there's a possibility of having the opportunity to move off of him. But I do think that he's here for at least one full season before he ends up getting traded. Because like I said, he's a 3-year deal, and the Nets do want to maximize their opportunities of cap space when it comes to the 2027 offseason. So at some point, he will get moved here within the next year and a half. It just depends on whether or not it's going to be, at this year's trade deadline, during the offseason next year, or at next year's trade deadline.
All right, John, what you think? Do you think the Nets, you know how they like to fall in love with guys and keep guys longer? Do you think Neesmith, Terrence Mann, you know what I'm saying, any one of these guys, even Zaire, if he makes the roster, you know what I'm saying, do they fall in love with any one of these guys and keep them, especially Neesmith or Terrence? Do you think they move them, one of these guys or both of these guys in the trade deadline? You think they keep one of them longer than they should? What's your thoughts? Oh, John's not there. He went on. You know what I'm saying? I think they might end up keeping somebody like these. If Terrence Mann has a higher contract, but for some reason I feel like if they can keep somebody for the low or keep a guy that they like, they probably will do that. You know what I mean? Because they tend to do that. I know they didn't want to move off Cam Johnson. I know they really didn't want to do that, but they did anyways. And I know they was trying to hold on to Bridges for their life, and then so they got a big offer for him. Then they moved off him. You know what I'm saying? So the way this team is right now, who knows what they will do? Dylan, you got anything else you want to add to this conversation before you know what I'm saying, in the live?
Nah, man, appreciate you for having me on. It was a good conversation. Definitely looking forward to what happens with the roster construction throughout the next couple of weeks. And like I said, we're a month away from training camp, so we're one step closer to the season beginning.
All right, let the people know where they can find Mr. Nets Press at. You know what I mean?
No, I appreciate it, man. Yeah, feel free to follow me on Instagram at Nets Press. We got 21,000 strong over there, on the road to 25,000. So feel free to follow me over there for daily Nets content. Your fastest, most reliable source for all things Brooklyn Nets. Rumors, reports, breaking news, anything you need, it's over there. So feel free to follow me over there. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I bullshit all the time over there too. So feel free to follow me at Nets Press IG, and appreciate you for having me on, man.
All right, no problem. Y'all know my motto. Y'all know where to find me. TikTok, YouTube, Breezy Show. Shout out to Breezy. Y'all know my motto. Y'all don't have to like. Y'all don't have to subscribe because I don't know anything. You heard? And I'm out.